Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Ekta Sehgal Malhotra, founder MQ. Ela Pachori, co-founder, and I feel delighted to extend you a warm welcome on our second episode on a series which is it's all about parenting. Reprogram, restart parenting with NLP. With us is Resna Dennis, a life coach, a parent coach, author coach, an ex-banker with over 20 years of experience, and a mother herself. In our first episode, she made us understand what NLP is all about, neuro linguistic programming. Many questions were asked by all of us. Why new techniques are there to learn parenting or to understand parenting? One of the key takeaways for me was don't generalize, don't distort, and don't delete the information. It is important to understand the information that you receive as it is and accordingly respond to it. Today, there is something very interesting that Resina is going to be talking to us. Myths or facts and new rules of parenting. A lot of you may be wondering, myths around parenting or facts around parenting? Well, before we started off with this session, a very friendly and a casual conversation between Ela, myself, and Resina was parenting is not an easy task. And parenting is not about the formative years or the teenage issues or the adult issues, but it is a journey that is on till the time you are alive. So it is an ongoing process. And if something is an ongoing process, how can we not understand the new rules? But to be able to absorb something new, it is very important to break some myths, understand some facts, and build on that. So, with this, I extend a warm welcome to Resina. Over to you, Resina, and thank you so much for all of you who have joined us. And I'm sure you will benefit from this session today, like you did last week. Over to you, Resina.
Thank you so much. Namaskar, everyone. It's a pleasure to be back on the MQ series. And today, our discussion is going to be a very light discussion. It's going to be a discussion where all of us as parents need to introspect about how we react, how we act, etc. So we're going to quickly begin. Uh, I love the way Ekta summarized the takeaway from the first session, and precisely very bang on, very appropriately, she said that her takeaway was that we always generalize, delete, distort information which comes to us. In the parenting context, it means that whenever we look at our children, their behaviors, the way they respond, the way they talk, the way they act, there is a lot of presumption which we have in our minds basis our experiences, basis our beliefs, and basis which we react or act in a certain way. So, the first and the most important ground rule of NLP is that do not generalize, do not delete, do not distort. In fact, this is a tip which you should follow not only as a parent but also an individual because it will help you always in your life, be it your career, be it your personal growth, or any stage of life. So, we move on to today's session where we're going to talk about or where we're going to learn and discuss certain presumptions. They are also into bracket called myths. Myth may be a very strong word, so I'm going to use the word presumption. Let's look at the certain presumptions we as parents carry. Of course, we shouldn't blame ourselves for these presumptions. It's because probably that's how we saw parenting from our experiences, our past beliefs. But I think all of us who are probably on this show right now with us, or watching us, or will be watching us, have this strong desire to be great parent, to be good parent. So if you want to improve your parenting, no matter what situation you are into today, the first step is to first understand where is that we are going wrong. As parents, we may not be perfect all the time, right? So today's session, we are going to discuss certain presumptions which we as parents have in our mind, which probably can be corrected so that our parenting style can change. And when we change our parenting style, keeping away these presumptions, you will automatically get results which you expect from your children in future. So let's get started. I'm putting up the presentation right now. So Ekta already summed this up, so I'm going to skip this and we're going to move straight away to the presentation slide. But before that, I'm just going to remind everyone just one more thing we spoke about in our first session, that we need to communicate to the neurons when you're communicating. So you need to communicate to your children's mind when you communicate. And NLP helps you to actually talk to your children's mind in a certain way, which registers with them, which resonates with them, which they are able to understand, process, and then act accordingly. So we are going to learn more about how do we talk to neurons of our children so that we can get the result which we look for. So this is one of my most important quote, which I always believe in, which I always look at. And it says that the most powerful way to a child's success is effective parenting and positive involvement. I'm going to emphasize this a little bit here. Effective parenting, I think everybody does effective parenting, right? But I know there are situations where we are not completely involved in the parenting process. That could be because of our work pressures, family pressures, and a lot of other aspects. But however, only thing a child needs is a positive involvement to grow, to nurture, to structure, and to be a healthy or a happy child. So on this note, let's proceed further. So, what are some of the parenting principles we follow? I'm sure as a parent, we all have rules, isn't it? I think I would urge everyone to probably put it in comment, put these things in the comments. What are some parenting rules or principles which you follow as a parent? Like for example, as a parent, I have a very strict principle that I'm not going to raise hand on my child. It's a very strict principle which I follow. So I'm sure in such manner, all parents who are watching us or with us on the show will have certain principles which they follow. So for me, spending quality time as a parent is one of the principles I follow as a parent. Not raising hands, which I already mentioned. I believe teaching values to my child, and I'm sure every parent want to teach children values, right? So that they can grow into great adults, they can have a lot of values, integrity in them. Of course, as parents, one of the rules, one of the principles we follow is that we want to always take care of their needs, isn't it? No matter what happens, we always promise ourselves that we are going to take care of their needs, and always and always we are after them so that they can be healthy, right? We always take care of their health needs so that they don't fall sick. We make sure that we give them home cooked food, etc. So these are some of the principles and some of the values we already follow as parents. So Ekta, are there any comments which anybody has put in from their side as to what are their principles which they follow?
Yes. So, like if I talk for myself, it is the child has to eat the food at the dining table, no matter what. They cannot roam around and eat the food. She has to be on time for her class,
Right.
and she has to respect the time because that is very important. Discipline automatically falls
Correct.
in place.
Correct.
Eli is saying that teaching values and spending quality time, that's
Yes.
important. um, so here, Amir, Sadia has a question actually,
Mhm.
Rezana,
Yeah.
and not raising hand. She's saying, I have never raised hands on my child, but sometimes I just pretend that I'm going to give them one just to scare them. Is that
Yeah.
okay?
So if you ask me, you know, raising hands either in action or literally doing it is honestly not okay, because it definitely has an impact on a child's mind or a child's heart. What happens is, as children, we may not hit them, but we may show our hands and in certain way that they probably start thinking in their head or in their mind that it's okay to be beaten up. This may not be a problem now, but as they eventually grow up, this could probably settle down in their mind. So that's the reason why when parents ask me this question, I always tell them that use words, use body language, use emotions, but never raise hands and never even make the action of raising hands. Because children register everything. They may not react now, but it may get registered in their mind that it's okay if somebody hits me, and in future it can become detrimental to the child's personality.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we have Leena Prakash on Facebook that listening to my child has always worked. Children have reasons for most of what they do and do not. And
Lovely.
she also, since she's also a coach herself and works with children when it comes to keeping them fit, she's also saying that fear is a wrong way to inculcate discipline, as you also mentioned. So she completely resonates with your thought.
Absolutely. Great. Just spending one more minute on this, Ekta, because it's so critical. I have met children who had fear of, somebody even raising hands to them because, they had this culture in their families where anything and everything happened. They were probably beaten up or they were threatened saying that if you do anything, you will be beaten up. And eventually that affects the personality, especially when it's a girl child. It is so important that we do not create any environment which gives them a message that this is okay. Because when they grow up, they might consider this as okay and accept it the way things come to them. Yeah. So, and even with boys, equally with boys, there is no differentiation here. But it's so important to make sure that we put this straight right in our children's mind that it's not okay to be beaten up or anybody raising hands on you. Yeah. All right. So great. So moving on to the next part. So here we just discussed about few parenting principles which I follow as a parent. Ekta shared, Leela shared, and a lot of people shared. So as a parent, I'm sure we all have these couple of rules which we go by and we make sure that our children follow those rules. And we also have rules for ourselves. Like as I said, that I never raise hands on my child. So that's my rule which I follow. So here we have created certain principles and certain rules which we are already following. Yes, Ekta.
So we also have Anita Mishra, who runs a couple of play schools. So obviously she deals with a lot of children and not just her own, but because she's grown up children. But yeah, she's saying that I give them silent treatment. I don't speak. I keep quiet. So that also, I think, sometimes conveys a message to the child that okay, I'm not going to be talking to you. Um, and Lena is resonating with your thought again that even boys who are beaten or raised in fear of any form become adults with damaged personality. So
Absolutely.
indeed, spanking or hitting does have a negative bearing. I guess we were just lucky; we were good children. We didn't get impacted that way.
Great. Yes.
Please proceed.
So wonderful, wonderful. Thanks, Ekta. I think some really great inputs are coming our way. So moving on. So as I was saying that we already have some principles which we follow, and there is nothing wrong in these principles which we are following. They're absolutely right because we all there's one bottom line to this that we love our children, we want to protect them, we want to do the best for them, we want to give the best to them, right? And we want to make sure that they grow up with values, integrity, honesty, and all right values in place. Yeah. However, the difference is that how do we communicate to them these values plays a very vital role in parenting aspect, and how much involved you are in making sure that you communicate these rules, these principles to your children is extremely important, and we're going to have a look at it in our future slides. So let's talk about certain presumptions before we move on. Yeah. So the first parenting presumption, which this is basis study, this is basis research, this is basis surveys, and I'm sure everybody will resonate. And we have talked about this enough from our session one, and it's continuing because this is a root of most of the problems that we always respond according to our thoughts and beliefs. So if you just look at this picture here, which is on the right hand side, okay, if you look at it, the first thing which comes to our mind is probably this child has broken this window, isn't it? Yeah, most of us probably will think that okay, and that's the mom who's standing very angrily and questioning the child and saying that listen, why did you do this? Yeah. However, the story can be different. Yeah. Probably somebody else has broken the window, the child happened to just be there. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say here is that there is this one presumption which we parents always have. Let's take another example. If your child is probably standing in the kitchen and you happen to just walk in, and if you see water fallen spilled over on the floor, I think the first assumption will be, ye pani kyun giraya? Why did you drop water here? And then when your child will tell you that mom, dad, I did not drop it, it was already spilled, that's when you will say, oh, okay, all right. Yeah. So This is one of the presumptions which we parents always have in our minds. And in fact, not as parents, as humans, as individuals, also we carry this presumption a lot. Let's look at the next presumption. The next presumption is that every bad behavior has a negative intent. I think somebody just commented that children's behaviors never have a negative intention. I'm sure all parents who are listening to me, watching to me will agree that children who are like real small children, do you think they have negative intentions in what they do? Do you think they want to damage anyone, especially the parents? Do you think they want to hurt you? They want to damage you? Not at all. There can be times, there can be situations when they behave badly, but there could be a reason for that behavior. And not every bad behavior has a negative intent. So, this is one of the presumptions which we always carry, that if my child is behaving badly, which means my child is bad, my child is good for nothing, my child is weak in studies, etc., etc. We're going to talk about more examples as we proceed further. The next presumption which we parents carry is that we know how to communicate with our children. We are the best communicators. Our children don't want to understand. I'm sure I can see Ela smiling. I'm sure a lot of people are, relating to this, that we always think that I have told my child, in the best possible way what he or she is supposed to do. But I think my child is stubborn. I think my child just doesn't want to listen to me. उसने ठान लिया है कि मम्मी की बात सुननी ही नहीं है. उसने decide कर लिया है कि मुझे आज पढ़ना ही नहीं है. Right? So what I'm trying to say here is that parents think that if we have told our children something in a certain way, it needs to be done. And they think that our communication is the best form of communication which we are having with children. So this is one of the presumptions which parents definitely carry. Next one is, this is something very close to me, very special to me, which says that we must do what everyone else does as a parent. Like, I think in the previous sessions, a lot of parents were talking about, we as children, were scolded, were spanked, and we have done whatever we had to accomplish in life, or we grew up the way we grew up. Of course, those times were different. These times are different. The exposure is crazy. Our children are in much pressure than what we can even think. There is a pressure of looking good. There's a pressure of getting great grades. There is a pressure of, peer pressure of having the best phone, or probably a pressure of, having a certain kind of hair. Let's talk about, the aspects, the look aspects, especially in children. At the age of 10, you would see children wearing best of clothes, wanting to wear best of clothes, yeah, wanting to look really amazingly groomed and good, because obviously they have started comparing themselves with others, their peers, their classmates, etc. So we as parents think that, if my child is not studying, the only way to make my child study is to scream, shout, scold, or sometimes even spank. Yeah. So here the presumption is that probably what we were taught as children, or what the way we were handled as children, we must try and adopt the same measures. I am not saying for a moment here that our traditional methods are not great. Of course they are. They are our foundations, yeah. And I always believe in traditional and foundational methods. However, since the time has changed, the competition is different, the pressure is different, there is something else which we need to do to make sure our parenting style, our parenting way changes, and we adopt various different methods to communicate, to work, or to engage with our children. And lastly, a lot of parents, I have come across where they say to themselves that my child doesn't listen to me. My child is absolutely stubborn. I have failed as a parent. I'm not able to do anything as a parent. Yeah. Lot of parents come to me with this failure attitude. And I always tell them that you can never fail as a parent. There can be tough times, there can be hard days, but you can never, never, never fail as a parent. And especially, it's so important that you do not let your kids feel that you are a failure parent. Because if your kids feel that, get that feeling from you, of course, for them, you are the hero. You are the first person they met, they saw, they felt when they were born. You are the hero and the heroine of their life. So it's so important for you to make sure that you keep that confidence in you, that you are not a failure parent. You are a parent who is working towards making things better and better. So these are some quick presumptions which we looked at. If there are any questions, Ekta, Ela, I would love to handle them, love to answer them right now.
Ela, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, Razina.
Yes.
So we have a question from Monica Goyal Devan.
Sure.
She is asking, how do you understand the intention behind bad behavior?
Sure. So we are going to cover this in detail, Ela, in you know how when we are talking about the 7 steps of reprogramming or parenting.
Yeah.
However, how do you understand the intent of a bad behavior? Firstly, until the age of 13, okay, children do not have bad intentions towards their behavior. Either they are doing something either to protect themselves or prove a point or compete with something. They do not understand bad intentions. It's only when they cross the age of 13, when they interact, when they get exposed to a lot of media and movies and obviously, friends around, that's when they start understanding bad intentions, wrong intentions, and stuff like that. So if this question is for under 13, then my answer is that there is never a bad intention. There is always a reason, and it is very important to find that reason. Now, how do you find that reason? We're going to talk about it in our next slide. So we're going to come to that, Hila.
Thank you.
Razina, just to build on that, while I'm sure you're going to cover that, you spoke about media and we're talking about the bad intention or a malice intention behind an act that a child does. Of late, the teen per se is no longer 13 and onward, right? They are maturing because of the environment and everything that they are exposed to. They are getting matured, and there is overload of information, and one keeps reading in the newspaper that even a 10-year or a 9-year-old child has committed a heinous crime. Now, while it may not really be very relevant to the audience, but to understand, because who knows, you may get caught in a situation like that. So, why would a child behave in such a manner?
So, Ekta, it's always said that children behave in a certain manner until the age of, say, 10 to 13 by absorbing everything from the environment, right? Now, it is if the children who especially commit crime, and it's so disheartening to even hear these stories. When I hear them, it's so disheartening, and when I read about them, or when I interact, or I get a chance to understand, the underlying issue there has been that either it is drilled down into them in such a way that if you do this, this is what's going to happen, and which is going to benefit you or your family, etc. So most of the reasons why children do something wrong, which is absolutely over and above their age, is because they do not understand the difference between what is right, what is wrong. They act in a with a reason to probably protect something or do something which is going to benefit them or their family. So these are the primary reasons which I have come across. I'm not into criminal psychology as such, so I would not have more information on this. But my reading as a parent and as a parenting expert is that all these stems from the environment which children come across. It can be either at homes or it can be either outside their homes as well. So this is all environmental effect which can come on a child, and then child can take an adverse action.
Right. Okay. We have Anita again, giving her insight into, with the comment that you made that a parent never fails. So she's saying that there are two major reasons for the failure by parents to love their children enough. First, the parents do not love themselves. So there is a baggage that they, bring along. And parents with low self-esteem have great difficulty giving more love to their children than they feel for themselves.
Mhm.
So, that's her take on this
Right.
as
Right.
well.
So it's a great thought. It's a very lovely thought which she's put in. That yes, remember in the first session we spoke so much about clearing your own baggage first as a parent. Remember we actually spoke about this. So yes, it's so important as a parent first to love yourself. As a parent, love yourself. As a human, as an individual, yes, we love ourselves. But sometimes, when it comes to being a parent, we have these negative self-talk which we do with us, that it is so tough, I don't know why I did this, it is so difficult, etc., etc., etc. So I think you need to definitely love yourself, and that is going to reflect and emit from you when you're dealing with your child. So that's so very important, and it's a great thought.
Uh, Leena Prakash also says, as parents, we need to look at our child's personality as unique and not as an extension of the family.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very, 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 very valid, very, very important point, that your child, every child is unique. They have their own strengths, they have their own weaknesses, and absolutely so important that you accept your child the way your child is, rather than thinking, "Ki, Kash, my child would also be scoring 100% mark. Kash, my child was good at dancing. Kash, my child was good at singing, etc., etc." Every child has a unique personality. Of course, you should, as parent, give them a platform. Definitely give them a platform, because sometimes children don't know their talents. Their talents are hidden. Yeah, when you give them a platform, they see, they do, they act, and when they think that, okay, I can do this, I'm liking this, give them wings, let them fly, let them explore. But very, very valid point, Ila. It's a very, very valid thought.
And going further, she also says, Leena also says, children express feelings through many ways.
Yes.
Anger, frustration, and other such feelings, when they go unnoticed, they create problems in their personalities.
Yes, yes, that's absolutely right point. In NLP, when I was learning NLP, very important point which we were taught is that whenever a child is behaving in a certain way, okay, you do not judge the child's behavior, rather than find out why is the child behaving in certain way, because children don't know sometimes to communicate or let out their emotions in terms of coming and talking to you about it. They may act in a certain way to let you know that, listen, I am grumpy, I am sad, I don't want you to go to office today, I want you to spend the entire day with me without your mobile phone kept somewhere else. They will not come and tell you this, that mama, keep your phone away, dada, keep your phone away. They will come and tell you something else, that, listen, I'm getting bored, listen, I want to go down, listen, I'm getting grumpy. Or they may just keep, I've seen children who are so hyper that they keep running around in the house all the time. And when you actually, I had a child, who had a similar issue, that the child was so hyper that it was impossible for their parent to make him sit down at one place. And when we actually got into a conversation, we realized that the child wanted attention, the child wanted time from the family members, and he was not getting that time. Of course, the parents were busy working, they were really working hard. Obviously, they are working hard for their child, definitely, but children don't understand that, right? So we made some changes, where we spoke to the parents, and we told the parents that, why don't you take some time out, individually, both of you all cannot give time together. Maybe when the time you're working, daddy spends time, and when daddy is working, mama spends time, in certain way. And slowly and steadily, the child's hyper behavior actually toned down a bit. And when we asked the child that, why don't you tell this to your mama baba, that they're not spending time with me. Whenever I told them, they always said, Beta, but we have work. What do? We have to work, right? Salary kahan se aayegi? These are such big words to, actually tell our children, because our children don't understand salary kahan se aayegi, So it's so important that we pay attention to these signs and signals which our children give us. There is a way to tell them. Of course, we have to work as parents. There is no choice. Yeah. I am not saying that leave your work, drop your work, and just spend 24 by 7 time with your children. If you cannot spend a lot of time with your children, spend quality time, undivided time, keeping your gadgets away. Try this, parents. I urge all parents that whenever you're spending that next 1 hour with your child, keep all your gadgets away and see the change, the quality, the love, the affection, the way your child starts talking to you. by just keeping that gadget away. So please try this. I urge all parents to try it and let us know whether it works or not. So yes, it's so important that you give undivided time to your children. And if you cannot dedicate more hours, whatever time you give them, give it for them, only them, and nothing else. And they will slowly understand that mama, papa has work. They have some very important work to handle at office, and communicate to them with like adults. Tell them that, I have an important meeting between this time to this time. I am free at this time. Let's play at this time. Create those little timetables between, the child and the parent, and see how you can, club it together. Your child will start understanding that your work is also very important. Salary kahan se aayegi is not a communication which we want to give to our children.
We have another question from Monica Goel Diwan. What measures can be taken to save the child from bad influence, especially if the influence is in close vicinity?
So, simply said is that if you have identified that it's a bad influence, first thing first is you have to talk to your child about it. Some parents just say that you're not supposed to talk to this child, you're not supposed to meet this child, you're not supposed to talk to this child. We don't really give them a reasoning. So it's so important that you explain the child why is that you're saying that you avoid meeting this child, and what can go wrong. Yeah, that's very important. And of course, there will be times when children will not understand, because they are very influenced with friends and everyone around. So sometimes you may have to put your foot down and say that, listen, this is for your good. Try and understand this is for your good. Give them reasoning, give them which list of things which can go wrong, and lead them to assimilate it, to understand it slowly and steadily. Yeah. And try this out. It definitely works. But of course, here there are certain times as a parent you have to put your foot down. Please put your foot down. But communicate with your children. Why are you doing this? And then be stern about it. There is no harm in it.
Especially in their teens, picture like parents when they try stopping or reasoning with their kids that you do not linger, like hang around with certain kids,
Right.
around with certain kind of kids.
Right.
The parents become their best, worst enemies.
Yes. Yes, true. That's true. And children are so influenced with friends, even at 10 onwards. It's not only for teens, it's even for 10 onwards. They're very, very influenced with children. Okay. So it's going to be tough. But of course, you need to give them reasoning. You need to show them examples or instances which can go wrong, which can impact them as a child. When you show them these examples, when you show them these instances, when children see something by themselves, they register it faster. So show them instances, show them examples, and let them assimilate it. But of course, when there are times when you need to be stern, you need to be stern. Slowly and steadily, children give into it. When they start understanding what reasoning you have given them. It takes time, Ila. I'm not saying that everything is jadoo ki chhadi, that you do it now or kal ho jayega. No, it takes time, but communication is very important. Talking to your children like adults and giving them reasoning is very important, and showing them instances and examples plays a very, very vital role here.
So here, we are now filled with comments and questions actually. So there's Pooja Dikshit who has just joined us. So she says that in her case, reasoning and consistency worked with her first kid, but it's not working with her second kid.
Okay. What's the age of the second kid, Leela?
The second kid is, I think, 3 years old.
3 years, okay.
Yeah.
3 years, okay. 3 years is a very, very, very tender age.
3 or 4 maybe, not more
very,
than that.
Very tender age. So in this, and the other child is, I'm sure, must be of the same age.
No, the other child, they have a gap. I think she's 8 or 9 years old.
All right. Okay. So see, in this case, Ila, the child is very small. Here there is little scope of reasoning with them, because they're not in a position to understand. So here, what can be done is that you first find out why your child wants to meet the other child. Okay, fill the gap of that requirement. So probably your child gets entertainment by meeting the other child, or laughs a lot, or maybe gets to play games. It can be anything. Find out what is that gap which has been filled by the other child, and try and see if you can fill that gap through an activity, through an engagement. Because children, for them, more than people, what they get out of people is very important. So we need to find out what is that the child is getting from the other child, and try and fill that gap by doing exactly something like that.
Thank you.
So this could probably help, because this child is very, very small and the reasoning may not probably work with such a tender age. Yes. So shall we proceed if there are no
Yes,
questions?
yes, yes.
Great.
Yes.
Ekta, you want to ask anything?
No. So Sadia also mentioned that, you mentioned about the no gadget time. It has worked very well with her, and with a couple of others also saying that that no gadget period. I mean, that that was a very interesting thing that you said, that children in not so many words or in different ways convey that they don't want you to do a certain thing, or they want that undivided attention. So my 4-year old tells me that she every day in the morning she has this very consistent question, that do you have a call today? And then this follow up question to that is it a video call? I mean, is it a laptop call or a phone call? And if it is a laptop call, how long would it be? And so then after this, after a few days, I told her that, okay, there is a day that I have allotted where I will not do any laptop calls. Phone calls I cannot control, because if I get them. She said okay. So she asked me which days, and it is supposed to be Monday, but of course, we had this scheduled for today. So she asked me that it's Monday today, so how come you have a call? So I told her, I said, because of some reason, I could not do this on another day. So I had to fix this on a Monday. So she thought for a second, and then she said, so which means that there will be another day where there will be no laptop call. So I said, yes, there will be a day that there will be no laptop call. So I think it is very important that, as Resina said, that we need to take cues from what children tell. And they are very smart these days, I feel. Even a 3-year or a 4-year old, they may not understand too much of the reasoning that we give. But having said that, Resina, I also would agree and maybe have a different thought process to this, that if you do tell the child in a manner that they will understand, since I am a financial mentor and I do work with children also, it is important for them to understand that why the parents are doing a work or a certain thing, because that's when they will understand the value of things that come their way. Otherwise they start taking it for granted ki, okay, parents have the wherewithal to get them anything and everything the moment they say. That is one. Second, I completely agree with that, that creative that you have shared, that like hang on for a second, I'll play with you or I'll talk to you. But children also have their own ways of constantly nagging you that no, you listen to me now. And they, I feel 99% of the time, will come and start questioning you when you are doing something very important and critical, for obvious reasons that they wish to. But from a financial aspect, I feel that 3.5 is a good age to put that concept in their mind in a very subtle manner, so that they understand. Because as you said, that they may not respond to a certain situation, but it stays in their subconscious mind. When you tell them that, okay, whatever you get by getting money. Where does the money come from?
Correct.
Right? So we told her that we earn money, and that's why things come. And then one day it so happened that she heard us talk that, okay, I need to go to the bank to get money. So she said, why do you have to work? The money comes from the bank. So so when you start putting these thoughts in their mind, their mind starts to work. So I just thought I wanted to highlight this over here.
Absolutely. A very, very, very valid point, and very, very nicely put up as well. Financial aspect, yes, very, very important. And reasoning, for a 3-year-old child, of course, the way you communicate, the kind of conversation you have, how simply you put up to them, definitely can work. So in the question which was put up, that you want to avoid your child to be meeting another child, which is probably can be a bad influence. Bad influence is something which children are not able to connect that well at a tender age. So it's so important for you to, of course, explain them, tell them. Okay. However, understand what you can do to fill that gap, because as I mentioned, that children look up to people, or they want to meet someone because They get something out of them. It can be fun, laughter, happiness, whatever, anything, warmth, comfort. So you find what is that they're looking for, fill that gap in whichever way you can, and you will see that your child will start slowly drifting away from bad influences as well. I have tried this on my child. It has worked for me, and I am sure as every parent, if you try, it will work in some or the other aspect.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, shall
So
we move ahead?
Yes,
one
please.
more question.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Rashmi Sanganeria, like I'm actually loving this. Rashmi Sanganeria asks, how can one bring about a balance? मतलब बच्चों को balance करना कैसे सिखाएं? To divide their time between gadgets and physical activities, because going by the times, kids are totally engrossed with gadgets these days. They
Yes,
don't want
yes.
to move out to play.
Correct, correct. Yes, it's the biggest challenge, biggest challenge for every parent today. And I will share my personal experience, and this is
Yeah.
what I have done for my child, and I always help parents, to adopt this habit. The first habit is to first explain your child about the side effects of gadget. It is so important for your child to know. Okay, that's the first step. Even if your child listens to you, doesn't listen to you, explain them side effects of gadgets. Okay, reiterate that. Don't suddenly create a pattern and say, okay, aaj se only 1 hour, sab kuch ban. Because when you do that, your child pattern which the child is set into, the child will not able to break that pattern. And that's when you will see bad behaviors, rebelliousness, angry, grumpy, अपने आप को कमरे में बंद कर लेंगे or whatever. These bad behaviors will come up. Why do these bad behaviors come? Is because children are not able to break the pattern which is created in their mind. So it's important that you break that pattern slowly. So first, you have a conversation with them about the side effects of gadgets. Keep reiterating with them. Create a timetable for them. Create a timetable for them where they commit to you that this is the time when they're going to watch gadget, and you commit to them that this is your time. Nobody is going to take this time away from you, and stick to that commitment. Stick to that commitment. That's so important because see, I'll tell you, being on gadget is fun. Children are playing games, they are learning new things, they are coding. For them, it's fun. For them, it's learning something new. They don't see anything wrong in it. Yeah. However, the side effects are brutal. The side effects affects their brain, it affects their mental health, it affects their immune system as well. But do you think a child will understand immune system to problem hoti hai, your health will get affected? No, they will not. So slowly and gradually you talk about the side effects, create a timetable, give them a time, and make sure that nobody comes in that time. If you respect the commitment which you've given to them and you stick to it, your child will slowly start respecting your commitment which the child has made to you. I'm asking each parent to try this out and see how it works. But remember one thing, if you have committed to your child, don't break that commitment. Let them have that 1 or 2 hours which they want to have, because children also wants to be they want to be in control, they want to be respected, they want to be they sometimes my daughter comes and tells me that mama, you can be on phone whole day, why can't I be on phone whole day? And that's when I sit down with her, and I instead of screaming at her and saying, how can you say that, mama is working, that's why I'm on phone. That's not the way, because they're not going to understand. I make her sit down and I explain her that why mama has to be on phone because of XYZ reasons, why you cannot be on phone for XYZ reasons. But of course, I would love you to interact with your friends. I would really love you to learn new games or learn something new. She sings, so I would love you to listen to new songs so that you can also learn the new songs which are coming up. I would love you to do all that. So please take this time. This time is yours. And when you use these words where you make them feel that you are also wanting them to watch gadgets, not that it's a complete no. You also want that, but there has to be a monitored time because it's not good for your health, etc., etc. So I think these kind of conversations definitely help children to relate to you more and create that responsibility factor because they have committed to you and you have committed to them. And of course, slowly and steadily, they understand that this is not going to be good for them in the long run. But yes, it's tough. It's not easy. I'm again repeating that it's nothing is easy. I am sitting here and I'm saying this. I'm not saying this because I have not done this. I have tried it. I have done this. In a week, there are days where out of 7 days, 5 days, my daughter listens to me. 2 days, she doesn't listen. Yeah, that happens and that's going to happen. But 5 days, I'm a winner. I know that my daughter has a control gadget time. I am happy as a parent. At least, itni shuruaat to ho gayi, that's how I look at it. So that's what I would like to say, Leela.
I wanted to add a little bit of my experience. So, as a new age parent, you know that technology has to be introduced to the child, and obviously there is an age appropriate. As I remember, we got exposed to computers when we were in our postgrad, and
Yes.
mobile phones came in our hands when we started working, and
Okay.
that too, it was a luxury rather than a necessity. And of course, things have progressed from there. So when my daughter was born, I felt or I thought that maybe if I make her hear rhymes, and if she sees something, it might just help build her imagination. But it came like a boomerang, and it reached a point where without the phone, she would not open her mouth to eat food. And that's when I got really, bugged, and I took my stand. I said, no, this is not going to happen. And I have to get her off this. While I cannot take it away completely from her, because she's going to see other children, and that's going to be a question to me that, when they can, why can I not? Because that comparison starts happening without even telling them what it really means.
True.
So I used alternates to it. So the play school that she went, they had a reading stick. I gave that to her. I said, okay, must you listen to something while you're eating your food? You listen to the rhymes that are here, or I brought books into the picture, and gradually I got off, weaned her off those add-ons or the rhymes or books also.
Yes.
And what I also did was that gadget free time. So when she came back from her play school, and because I knew that if I explain it to her that it's not good for you, and this and that, and give her, she's not going to understand, because she was just
Little. Yeah.
nearly 2 years. I kept my phone aside on silent for about 2 hours, so that okay, I'm not using it, you don't use it. And whenever I did have to use it, which was predominantly for WhatsApp, I connected it to my laptop. So what she was seeing was that I'm working and not checking my phone constantly. So that really worked. So what I also feel is that we as parents, and having experienced it firsthand, we like to stereotype ourselves also, and we like to unnecessarily take overly burden on us, कि नहीं 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 ये तो हमारे तरीके से ही होना चाहिए. I think in addition to the reasoning and the consistency, especially for the smaller ones, the infants and the toddlers, the distraction methodology really works.
Correct.
You kind of just bring in something new to them,
Correct.
and
Correct.
then they totally forget about the old one. I mean, that's how fast they move ahead in their thought process. So I
Correct.
guess let's just continue, because as Ela said, that there are so many questions, and what is interesting to notice that there are questions from parents across the age group, and of course we're getting a lot of inputs from our viewers also. And while I'm speaking to you, we just got a comment that Prachi Mago is saying that being a role model also works. So well, I guess walk the talk is something that really works for each one of us, and children are no different. So I think, Resina, let's proceed, and then we'll take the other questions and comments
Yes.
at a later point in time.
Yes, absolutely. So, Ekta, why I switched over to this slide immediately when you were talking about as parents, we also stereotype ourselves a lot. Yeah. So that's our first principle. So now what we so far what we learned right now is what are the presumptions we carry as parents. Yeah. Now, what is the new parenting rule which we should adopt to see positive changes which we want to bring in our parenting style? Okay, this is all about parents. We are not asking children to change. We are asking your parents to change here. So this is for you parents. And let's begin quickly. So the first most important parenting rule which we must adopt. This is in addition to what we already have. Remember, we spoke at the beginning that I have certain parenting rules where, spending quality time, teaching values, etc. Keeping that intact. In addition, if you apply these NLP parenting rules, you will see a lot of difference which will come in your parenting style. So the first one is see what they see, hear what they hear, and feel what they feel from their map or world. What does this mean? This means very simply that we need to always look at situation from our children's perspective, from their map of the world. It's always, we always put our perspective. We always generalize, delete, distort. This is the fundamental of NLP. Generalize, delete, distort. We always do that in our lives. With our children, also, we do this. We need to make sure that we do not generalize, delete, and distort. And whenever there is a situation, you need to see, hear, and feel what they feel, or what they hear and what they see from their world. For example, let's take an example of, children watch specific cartoon, they love it, like Peppa Pig, and Spider-Man, etc. There is an underlying reason why they watch a specific cartoon. They may watch a specific cartoon because they may be admiring the personality or the character of that particular cartoon, or that cartoon is inspiring them to be something or be something like that. So if you catch your child watching a particular cartoon again and again and again, what we always say that, what is this? Yeah, you keep whole day watching Tom and Jerry, you're going to become like a Tom and Jerry. Don't we say that, right? So there are some underlying reasons why children watch something. There are underlying reasons why children behave in a certain order. So here, as a parent, one most important rule which I would want to leave you with is that whenever there is a situation, see from your child's perspective, hear from your child's perspective, feel from your child's perspective, enter their world. So if they are watching a particular cartoon, sit with them and watch and understand and talk to them, and they will tell you why exactly they are watching this particular cartoon, what is that they're getting out of it, what is that they think they're going to become watching this particular cartoon. So my nephew was around 11 years old, and he was a Spider-Man fan. Whole day he would behave like a Spider-Man, wear a Spider-Man costume, climb on walls, and parents back home, grandparents back home always scolded him, scolded him, and nothing else. Nobody tried to sit down and understand or ask him that, why are you doing this? And when I get to meet him, and when things came to my notice, I asked him that, why are you doing this? He says, I feel powerful by becoming Spider-Man. I feel that I can conquer the world. I feel I can help everyone around. And when I grow up, I want to help, like Spider-Man, everyone around. I want to catch robbers. That is what I want to become. Now, when I heard this, look at the intention of the child, why the child was doing a certain thing. Now, how could I understand that? I could only understand that when I stepped into the child's world. So, as parents, it's very important that you step into your child's world and see, hear, and feel what they hear, what they feel, what they see. We move on to the next one. The second principle we spoke about, in our previous presumption, is that whenever a child behaves badly, there is always a negative intent, right? Now, in this new principle, I'm urging all parents to change this thought, tweak this thought a little bit, and for a change, just consider that every behavior has a positive intent. For example, let's take a brilliant example. There is this lovely commercial ad which I came across. It was probably of Surf Excel. I'm probably missing the brand name, but in that, what I saw in that ad was, is a small child who's polishing his grandfather's shoes. And while he's polishing the grandfather's shoes, his entire shirt is black, his face is black, his hands are black. And suddenly somebody walks in and looks at him with really, poppy eyes and, what have you done? But in the end, when his grandfather walks in, he actually just hugs the child and says, thank you so much. And then the child says that, Dadaji, I'm so sorry. I've spoiled my clothes, but I wanted to actually just polish your shoes and keep it shiny for you. So this is one example which I would like to share with each one of you, where the behavior, whatever the child was behaving, had a positive intent and not a negative intent of spoiling clothes or, making himself or herself dirty. So that's the new principle which as parents, if we start adopting, you will see in your child's behavior, you'll start noticing underlying themes as to why they are behaving in certain way. And then you will realize that there is no negative intent. They want to probably do something nice for you or for someone, but probably their way of doing it is not appropriate. And that's when you get into correcting them. But correcting them by having a negative thought about them is never going to work. Correcting them with always believing that they have a positive intent will always work, because that's the confidence you will emit while when you talk to your child or when you explain your child about the situation, right? So we move on to the next one, the third principle. All right. So this is something which, as parents, everybody will resonate to. Communicate to make your child understand and not to accept your command. I know it's not easy. Yeah, sometimes, when we expect our child to clean their room, keep their books, at an appropriate place, fold their clothes, etc., and then they do it, then obviously we end up commanding them and saying, listen, you got to do this, otherwise I'm not going to give you your gadget time. You got to do this, otherwise today you will not get your food, etc., etc., right? So this is one of the principles which I as a parent practice, where whenever I want my child to do something, instead of commanding the child or commanding my child, you should try and communicate with them in such a way that they do not take it as a command. Like, for example, I call my daughter Lady. Her name is Sarah. So whenever I want her to do something, I don't tell her, Sarah, do this, Sarah, do that. I tell her, Lady Sarah, can you please pack your books? Lady Sarah, can you please, keep your gadget away? Your gadget time is over. Lady Sarah, can you please keep your clothes back in your cupboard? When you do this, they feel respected. They feel it's a request and not a command, because none of us like to be commanded, right? And with children, we always want to come. Whenever we see them, we always tell them, "Acha, ye kar do, acha, wo kar do, keep this, keep that," right? We are always in a commanding mode. Children don't like that. If we want our children to accept or understand or listen to what we want them to do, we'll have to slightly change our communication style from not commanding, to communicating. Communicating where they feel important, communicating where they feel that they're hero of the house. Yeah. Communicating with them in such a way that they feel that they are responsible, and we all are, feeling that you are a responsible child and you're going to do certain thing in a certain manner. Now, there are certain tips which I have put in here. So, whenever you want your child to do something and the child is not understanding, not listening, it's very important that you set aside some time and you discuss it out with your child as to why do you expect your child to make his or her bed when they get up in the morning. Yeah. Now, I'll give you an example. With my daughter, I tried telling her that, please, when you get up in the morning, it's important to make your bed. However, I realized that it was not registering in her mind. So one day I sat down with her and I showed her a video which actually gave certain scientific reasons as to why you should wake up and make your bed. And when she saw the video, she realized that making your bed in the morning makes you intelligent, makes you bright, makes you more positive towards the day, and makes you feel very responsible that you are in control of your day and you're going to conquer this day. So when I showed her that video, she completely transformed. And after that day and today, I don't have to tell her. She does it herself because she knows that she is getting something positive out of doing this activity. So this is one simple example which I'm sharing. I'm sure a lot of parents have their own challenges which they want to overcome. They want their children to listen to them. So maybe you can try this technique where you actually show them the benefits, the gains of doing something, rather than just commanding them ki ye kar lo. You should do this because this makes you this, you should do this, otherwise, I'm not going to take you as a disciplined child, etc. Instead of that, show them the gains. Yeah. And let them understand, let them resonate, and let them act accordingly. You should share your feelings. Sometimes, when children don't listen to us, we scold, we scream, we shout. But as parents, sometimes it's important to sit down with them, hold their hand, and say, listen, my dear child, when you don't do this, this is how I feel. My heart pains. I feel bad. I'm not able to concentrate on my work. Me and daddy are constantly worried that how, why are you not listening to us? We sometimes feel that probably are we going wrong in certain way. When children listen these things, when you tell them that how you're feeling about being a parent in terms of, whether they are not doing something appropriate or why the child is doing something like this, children start, developing that emotional connect with you. And then they start always thinking whenever they do something negative or wrong, they'll always think, okay, mama, papa don't like this. My mama's heart pains when, I don't do this. When you share your feelings, your children will be more emotionally connected to you and they'll be more driven towards you to do something when you ask them to do. Very importantly, we spoke this in the first session also, that human mind doesn't form an image of the word no. So when you tell your children, don't do this, no, 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 because that's how we communicate most of the time. Don't do this, don't do that, don't climb on this, you will fall. There are negative, communication modes which we use. And children cannot form the image of word no, and that's when they miss whatever you ask them to do. So instead of that, use positive way of communication. Instead of saying a no, try and use a positive way of communicating. Instead of saying that Don't ride your cycle fast, you're going to fall. Say something else. Say that, listen, you're going too fast. I think you should slow down, otherwise you can get hurt. These are the ways you change your communication mode, and you will see that your children will start responding to you in a positive manner. And there will be times when they will disagree with you. There will be times when they will be rebellious and say, Ki, nahi, main nahi karunga. Yeah. Don't wait there to win the battle. Okay. Just silent therapy. We spoke about Ekta. I think somebody was discussing about the silent therapy. Be extremely calm, be extremely silent, move away from there. Let your child realize why your child is rebellious, why is your child stubborn, why is your child not understanding what you're communicating, and then come back after 5 minutes or come back the next day to rediscuss the same task which you want your child to do in a different manner. But battling it with your child then and there is only going to create rifts, is only going to take your child away from you. So communication is the key, is the most important element of parenting, and positive communication is the way forward if you want your children to listen. Yeah. And of course, stop commanding your children and start communicating with your children. Shall we go ahead, or any questions so far?
I would like to just add one thing. Like
Yes.
when I was bringing my daughter up, instead of telling her to do certain things, I used to say, "Chalo, hum ye karte hain." So whatever things I wanted her to do, I used to just ask her, "Chalo, hum ye karte hain." So when she used to say, like she used to see that yes, Mama is also involved in doing the same thing, then she started doing it independently after a few days or months. So they should feel important at all times. That yes,
Yes, absolutely. They should feel important. They should feel that they have a respect, a stature in the house. And and that's so important. When you do that, when you start showing them that respect, they will automatically start bonding with you. You will see a sudden change when you change, start giving them respect and stature. There's something which I want to share. Whenever I travel for work, now travel is very less, my daughter is very happy. You know why? Because she gets to get the in charge of the house, and she tells me I am in charge of the house, and I practically give her the in charge of the house. I tell her, yes, 2 days you're going to manage, you're going to do everything, in the sense, needs to be done, what needs to be cooked, or who needs to come, who doesn't need to come, like everything, what we're going to watch today, or how the bed sheets are going to be put in, right from the household stuff to her studies, to her tuitions, to her classes, like everything, she's in charge and she loves it. And just because I started this, giving her that responsibility, as a child, she is becoming responsible by herself, in doing her own stuff as well, and she's getting more independent. So, yes, Ila, very right. Give them respect, give them stature, and they will be continuously coming back to you and communicating with you and listening to you what you want them to do.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And also, I think, the way we adults, if someone speaks to us badly or raises their voice and speaks to us or mistreats us,
yeah.
we show our resentment probably in a different manner. We'll stop talking, or we'll also become rebellious. Okay, fine, I don't want to do it. I don't care a damn about it. So I think even children, when you tell them, as you said, that if you command it, or if you tell them that you got to do this, so then they don't do it. But the moment your stance changes with them, one, of course, as Ira said, that take them along, come on, let's do it together. Or as how you said, give them the onus, put the responsibility on them. They feel very empowered, that
Yes.
I am small, but I am yet not small, but I'm being given this responsibility. And the moment you change your stance on something where they're very rigid, and then you become more stern with them, for sure they're not going to do it. But the
Yes.
moment you change your persona and say that, okay, fine, why don't we give it a try? Or I think playful manner, is very important. That experiential learning is sometimes important. And I also feel that more so in today's time, and no, I actually no, let's not get the times in this place. Parents are always overly protective about the child, right? And in that overprotectiveness, there are a lot of mistakes that we end up making. Because then we forget that the child also has a mind of his or her own, and they have a way of looking at something. You know, um, I don't remember who had shared this example with me, but if you tell a child to keep something somewhere, the child will not keep it there, though the child knows that it has to be kept there. And if you keep it there, or if the child keeps it there and it goes unnoticed, then the child will intentionally come and disturb the entire equilibrium of things, because he or she feels कि मैंने तो वो किया लेकिन मुझे किसी ने देखा नहीं. So that appreciation, that acknowledgement, that responsibility, if it is given to a child, like we soak almonds every night. So I told my daughter, I said, okay, listen, you know what? Every time I forget about it, so you take charge of it. There have been times that even in our sleep, Mama, almonds soaked. I'm like, no, okay, go.
Wow.
So we now have started to give her and give them responsibility of things which are of consequence. Don't just कि हाँ ठीक है ये तुम कर लो, because they also understand कि हमें कितनी अहमियत मिल रही है कि नहीं मिल रही है. So I think that's very important, and we do have a couple of comments here. So Monica says that pretty much similar to what I also shared, that children have their own perspective and it needs to be respected. As they say, the sky for show can be pink. And I totally agree with that. I mean, it's all about stereotyping. That mindset gets the stereotyping can be broken by these kids, because they come, their slate is empty, and it can be, there is so much to learn from them. And she's saying that while she completely agrees with all that has been mentioned, however, as a working mother of a single child, she struggled with time allocation for him. Also, due to traveling and leaving him alone at times, I think I have pampered him out of guilt. So, something that you'd like to talk on this?
Sure. So yes, firstly, don't be hard on yourself. Okay, you would have pampered your child because of definitely strong reasons, because you were traveling, you were away, and most of the mothers do that. Even I did it when there was a time where I used to travel once in a week, and we do it because we don't. We always feel that I'm not able to give time. I'm not able to be there in those great moments, be it like a dance show or a sports day. I have missed so many of them, and as a parent, when you miss important days of your child, especially performances and all, you feel so guilty about it. So I would just say that don't be so hard on yourself, because you are creating a future for your child by working and you're doing what you're doing. That's so important. Now Ekta, I'm little unclear about the question. So the question is that what is the exact question? The question is that what should she do to unpamper, or is it what?
Not really. It isn't really a question, but she's just
Yeah.
sharing that, because she
Okay.
travels and is unable to give that time. So there is a guilt. And I think, guilt has become a very common word that every mother you interact with is using it. That, I am guilty of the fact that I am working, I am guilty of the fact that I step out, and so on and so forth. But as a mother myself, and as a working mother, while I may not step out so much in the current times, but even earlier, I always made her understand that, look, your mom works and she needs to step out. And I feel that, more specifically in my case, because I'm a mother of a girl, it is important, as you said, that, there are certain lessons that they learn by watching you. If the mother feels guilty, and it in some way or the other will reflect in your approach, like as Monica also shared, that over pampering of a child. So to give you a very recent example, I was out pretty much the whole day on Saturday. And when I came back, my daughter told me that, Mama, I missed you. I told her, I also missed you. And she said that, you should not go out for so long. Or, now you don't go out for a few days. Don't do your outside meetings and all. So I told her, I said, see, you have your class every day from 10 to 12. She said, yes. I said, so you do your work at that time and I do my. You study and I do my work at that time. But sometimes for my work, I need to go out. So she said, yes. I said, but if I went out, you weren't home either. you went out to your grandmother's place and you had fun with her, but you didn't take me along. So she thought for a second, and then obviously she didn't know what to say. So what I'm trying to say is that it is important for the child to understand that there are going to be moments where you will do what you like to, and I will do what I like to. And after we had that conversation yesterday, I had a talk show. Her father was reading her paper and she was sitting down and doing her own things. And when I came back after the call, after finishing the talk show, she told me, I didn't disturb Papa. He was doing his work and I was sitting and doing my own puzzles while you were doing your call. Otherwise, earlier what she used to do is she used to knock at my door.
Yes.
Like, are you done? Constantly. But now she doesn't do that. So I think it's important that, that flow of communication with the
Yes.
child is extremely important. So
Absolutely.
that's from my side.
Let's talk a little bit about guilt, because mothers especially feel very guilty when we are working, traveling, kids are back home. I just want to say one thing as a parent, as a working mother, to everyone, that get this guilt out of your mind first, okay? Because if you're going to communicate feel guilty, you're going to communicate guilt to your children. And when you communicate guilt to your children will probably not take your work seriously. They will think that my mama is not happy, whatever she's doing, because she's constantly complaining, she's guilty, she's cribbing about it. Then your child, whether it's a son or a daughter, will always think that what my mother does is not important because she's not enjoying it. So, first, stop this communication. Okay? One. Second is, if you have daughters, if you have sons, and you want to make them progressive in life, yeah, you need to tell them or teach them that careers are very critical. Yeah. And when you want to reach or at a particular level in a career, you need to work, you need to put in effort. Show them that you're putting that effort, show them that you're putting in that hard work, because they will learn this from you. And when they grow up, their life will be easier because they have learned a lot already from home how to be a successful career person. So please, mothers, get this guilt out. Okay, whatever you're doing it for your child's future, and of course you're doing it to establish yourself as well. Might as well do it happily, do it confidently. Children get adopted, they understand. When you tell them, they'll understand. There will be times when you cannot be there for certain things. That's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine. Don't break yourself down for it. Yeah, because if you're going to do that, your children are going to only take that negative energy from you, and maybe when they grow up, their aspirations will be slightly lower than that what it could have been. Yeah, so watch out how you feel, what you communicate. It's so very important. So no guilt, mothers, please. We are all doing this for our children. Might as well do it with a smile on our face, right?
Even fathers to wash off their guilt of not being able to spend enough time with their kids, because
Yes,
mostly
yes.
either they are traveling or they have long hours at work. They compensate in form of gifts or being extra lenient.
Yes,
जहाँ
yes,
पे
true,
मदर एक कंट्रोल लगाना चाहती है, उस पे वो थोड़ा सा उस पे पानी फेर देते हैं पापा.
true, true. Absolutely.
So
So
what would you have to say to the dads there?
yes, yes, Ela. In fact, in the first session also, I mentioned that there has to be a great combination between mom and dad when you want to be an effective parent. Yeah, you guys need to communicate the same language. You guys need to communicate same rules. Guys need to make them understand that mama and papa are not different. Yeah, they are together. They are one. So if there is anything which you need, it's going to be an equal decision. Or you could probably have some segments that mama can give you permissions on this, dad can give you permissions on this. And to all the dads out there, please do not be guilty of not spending time with your children. As mothers are guilty, even dads are going to be guilty. Then what will the children do? So please don't do that. And of course, do not compensate it in form of gifts, because the most important work what you're going to do is going to be in your homes, and gifts and all just fade away, they just die away. Might as well, if you're really concerned that you're not able to spend time with your child, then do something to create that little time which you can give to your children. And might as well do that instead of gifting, getting lenient, because to solve a particular problem, you may come up with a very small temporary solution, but it's not going to help your child in any way. And then you will regret in future that kash maine aisa nahi kiya hota. So might as well, instead of taking the temporary route, daddies and fathers, remove some time. Okay, if your guilt is today at a level of 10, remove some time and get your guilt to a level of 5, because guilt kabhi jayegi nahi, that thing can keep coming back to us, but you can always do something about it rather than being lenient and getting gifts. Ila.
उसमें से ना दो चीजें निकलती हैं. एक तो बच्चा हर बार एक्सपेक्ट करने जाता है, he becomes greedy.
Yes.
And kids are very very smart and intelligent. They start manipulating their parents that dad is on my side or mom is on my side.
Yes.
तो पेरेंट्स की जो रिलेशनशिप आपस में भी खराब होने लगती है, वो इसीलिए होती है बिकॉज ऑफ किड्स. He or she becomes a bone of contention.
Absolutely. And there's one more very important point here, and it's an experience from one of my child coaching, Ila. What had happened was there was this parent who obviously were working parents and had a serious case of pampering, and they compensated their time with gifts and with parties and some get-togethers for their child, so that the child is continuously engaged and busy while they're working. There was a time when, after a few years, the child grew up, and now the parents realize that, oh my God, we have really pampered. And when whenever the child used to look left and say, I want this, it would always be available on the right hand. That was the situation. But as the child grew, they realized that the child is going out of hand. The demands are increasing. And that's when they decided that they're going to put a stop to this. And slowly they stopped giving, unwanted gifts to their child. You won't believe what the child started thinking. The child started thinking that my parents have become poor. They don't have any money. We're going to lose everything. We're not going to have, a roof on our head. And the child actually went into a slight depression, where the child went very quiet, stopped interacting with people, didn't wanted to go anywhere, did not communicate this to anyone. Only when I met the child and I spoke to the child opened up and said that I'm scared that we are getting poor. I'm not going to have anything in my life now. And when I, kind of spoke to the child and made him understand that, listen, this was done because of this reason, slowly the parents were also informed about it. And then we brought in some changes where, parents were told that, do not completely cut off. And if you're cutting off something, please communicate to your child, why are you doing it? Yeah. And slowly and steadily see how you can transition a child to a biggest change which you're bringing into your child's life. So there was a time when you were giving gifts every day to the time when you're not giving gifts other than birthdays is a drastic change for a child. And the child has taken it in an absolutely negative sense, that there is not going to be any roof on my head. Maybe he would have watched some movie or something where people become poor. And that was the impact on the child. So it's so important, especially fathers, don't be so lenient. Don't be so overly gifting to your children. Let your children earn gifts. It's very important to make them earn gifts other than their birthdays. Yeah. So if you really want to gift your child something, make something for them, create something for them, give them an experience, or let them earn it, because then they will value it more than enough. Right? Shall we proceed now?
Yes, please.
Yes. Great. So we spoke about communication, and we spoke a lot about communication because it's a most important principle that we need to follow as parents, that stop the commanding mode and get on to a positive communicative mode. The next one, which is we have been talking from day one, is do something different to get different results. I'm again going to repeat the same thing, that we have traditional methods which we are using to parent our children. However, the time has changed, the exposure has changed. You need to adopt different methods to deal with your children so that you can get different results. And these different methods are, as what we spoke about, changing your communication mode, seeing what they see, hear what they hear, feel what they feel, and remember that every behavior has a positive intent. And the fifth principle is that we have the resources within us to be the best parent. Remember, we spoke about one of the presumptions that I am not a good parent. Sometimes we give up as a good parent. We feel that we're not able to teach values. Our child has suddenly become so stubborn, and we question ourselves, saying that, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done that my child has become, so rebellious, so stubborn, so indisciplined, doesn't listen to anyone, doesn't respect anyone, etc. Now here, what I want to tell every parent is that there are parenting experts like me and many out there. However, as a parent, you have certain resources within you to tackle your situation or tackle your, condition which probably your child is facing today. So as parents, you are equally empowered to, take certain steps you are equally empowered with some resources in you. For example, all the working mothers, all the working dads at offices, we use so many strategies, right? When our team is low, when our team is not performing, when our team's productivity is low, what do? We use strategies, we create strategies, right, on our own. Similarly, as parents, try and see if you can use some strategies which probably you're using at work, even at your home, to create a performing child, or to make your child disciplined, or to make your child involved or engaged in work, or teach them teamwork. Teaching children sharing, teamwork is difficult. However, when you can do all these things in your work areas, you have the resources to do these things in your homes as well. Yeah. So that's the next principle. And the last one and the most important one is parents never fail. We are always work in progress. And we need to remember this always. Don't beat yourself down. Yeah. There is nothing called perfect parenting. Parenting is always for life. Even though your children are 3 years old, 10 years old, 20 years old, 25 years old, we are going to be parents forever. And parenting always is work in progress. So these are some principles which I want to leave everyone with so that you can start, pondering on it, start introspecting, start using this in your daily life, and see how you can bring some positive changes in your parenting style, after which you will start getting some positive results from your children. And before we end, we are going to take questions now. Before we end, there's a very beautiful activity which I'm going to leave everyone with, which I would urge everyone to do before we come back in the next session, which we're going to talk about after taking some questions. So, Ekta, Ela, any questions?
I think from my end, no, you've addressed pretty much all, and I think it was a very interesting session where a lot of comments, a lot of questions and thoughts have come from people. And like I said, that parenting is one aspect of a life which is an ongoing, and very rightly said in the end that it's always work in progress. And while we are at work, we use different strategies. So I have been finding different ways and means to manage my 4-year-old. What worked a month before doesn't work now, and and since I have seen, some of my, some of the children in the family grow, in front of me. So I've seen how they are, and even her, peers, and now more so, with the online classes, you get to see how the other children of the same age group are, right? And you see them constantly, how they are responding to the teacher and how they are doing. So none of them is same. One would be good in something, and the other would be good in something. And initially, as parents, it was becoming very 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 evident that parents were comparing that so and so child is able to do this very nicely, but my child is not. So the focus of every parent, I feel, was more on what my child cannot do.
Yes.
No, it wasn't that. The focus was what the other child is able to do.
True.
So,
So,
so rather than focusing on the capability of a child, why are you more concerned about what the other child is able to do and what your child cannot do? And if you have to focus, then you work on the development of the child, because that age, especially the age that I'm talking about, which is 3.5 to 4.5, even a few days when children are apart, it's a huge difference. Some progress very fast, some take time to catch up. And I think the mental block lies in a parent's mind, not in the child's mind. The child is just being what he or she wants to. But I think we all parents are guilty, as you said, whether that guilt is of stepping out to work, whether that guilt is of being harsh on our children in the name of discipline, including myself. You sometimes give one here and there without realizing the ramification and what the impact is. So definitely, I think today's session has been an eye opener for a lot of us, where certain things that we do without even realizing what the impact would be, but we regret later. So why not work on that area? And because there are no rule books that come with parenting, and parenting is one such job, which is a lifelong job. So I really wish that people take this job of theirs very seriously, without regret, without any guilt, to to really reframe their minds and restart. And I think one should not have any qualms in accepting that okay, I was wrong. If you
Yes.
expect the child to say कि हाँ जी मैंने गलती की है, so ठीक है, you don't have to go tom-tomming about it that I was wrong. You can always internalize yourself. And I think one of the rules that we were talking about, that both the parents should speak the same language, and parents always have to be a team, because the child knows how to play one against the other. They're very smart. Ela also mentioned that, and obviously Ela has almost 28 years of uh, parenting experience. um, I also feel that some certain things, the child should also know that this decision making, no matter how you may want to cajole one of the parent, but the decision making lies with the other one.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
then that parent should not budge. So like whenever it comes to anything, any unhealthy eating habit, or anything which is not the regular, so the little one tries and reaches out to the father, okay, okay, can you kind of let me do this? So he always says that you go to your mom, she's going to tell you whether it should be done or not. So she knows that the final call lies, that mom is going to tell her whether it's to be done or not. So indeed, Resina, very, very impactful session I feel today, and a lot of things to think, a lot of takeaways, and I'm glad it was very interactive, and
Awesome.
questions from all age groups. So, Ela, anything from your side? Any questions that you have?
Absolutely. You have summed it up so beautifully. Razina gave lovely inputs. And as parents, एक यूनिट की तरह ही खड़ा होना चाहिए. And a child should always know कि यहाँ पर किसी के भी पास जाएंगे और डिसीजन एक ही होगा. ये बहुत जरूरी है. Right from day one, this my husband and myself, both of us had decided from day one, because I saw many of my friends who became parents before us fighting over petty issues, just over their kids' demands and whims and fancies.
True.
So as when we became parents, we were very firm that कुछ भी हो जाए दुनिया में, हमको इस बच्चे के सामने एक बन के रहना है.
Good.
So till date, she knows that even if like I am about to ask for something, they will have a collective decision. So we have to have each other's backs actually.
That is
And
one. And yes, Ekta.
no, go ahead. I'll
Yeah.
share.
And it also gives a very great message to the child that my parents are united, thick and thin, and it develops a lot of bond also slowly and
Yes.
gradually with your child. It works very positively on him.
वो बहुत
when
सिक्योरिटी
work
आती है,
as
बच्चे को ना एक सिक्योरिटी मिलती है.
Ji, bilkul.
True.
Yes, Ekta, you were saying something.
Yeah, just two examples that come to my mind. Children typically have a habit, when they go out, and if you don't listen to what their demand is, they have this very peculiar habit of lying down on the floor.
Mhm.
Okay. And obviously, parents, in order to avoid the embarrassment, will either succumb to the pressure and get the child what the child wants, or, you know, because of the social norms and whatever, they give in to the child. And the moment you do that once, then the child knows that this is my way out. And I remember this happening with me, not with my kid, but with one of my niece. And she didn't know that her mom was watching her, but I saw her mom, and I just looked at her, because obviously I wasn't a parent then, so I didn't know how to react to that situation. She just told me, you just walk from there. And I started to walk from there. She kept calling me that, come back, take me along. And I just told her, you wanted to lie on the floor, your choice. I'm not getting that to you. And, that decision is with your mom. She can get it for you. So let's go to her. And she saw that she wasn't winning the battle with me. She stood up and she came running to me, and we started walking again. And then she saw her mother. And then she tells me, don't tell my mom. So I said, okay, fine. So obviously the mom had already seen what the scene was. And then she did the same thing with her mother, that I want this at a particular shop. And she did the same thing. So her mother held my hand and she said, let's start walking, let her do whatever she wants to. And then we went back home, and she herself narrated the entire instance to her father. And her father looked at his mother, her mother and me. What did you guys do? We said we walked off. He stood up and he clapped for her. That wonderful. So she felt that ये तो तीनों ही लोगों ने वही चीज किया है, which means this is not going to work for me. And that day until now, I mean, of course, now she's a grown up, but she never repeated that because she knew it didn't cut ice with us. So that's one. And second, I used to have a lot of parents say, we've never seen your daughter cribbing or fussing when you go out कि मुझे ये चाहिए चाहिए. I said because we never exposed her to that. We got her what was needed for her and at the right time. So she never pressurized us that every time we go out to the market, we have to buy her a gift. Or every time we go out, we have to buy her a pair of, a packet of chips or something like that. So she said, हमारे तो मानते ही नहीं है. I'm like, hello, there is no such thing कि मानते नहीं है. You have to explain it to the child. I said, you gave into it the first time, you gave into it the second time. And now you've set a pattern that every time we cross that shop, they have to get it. And why you do that? Because you didn't want an embarrassment. And that one time embarrassment, not tolerating that embarrassment and succumbing to the social pressure,
it costs way too much.
It created a pattern. So I think these online classes have really brought in a lot of perspective to parenting also, that, we should not focus on what our child is not able to do. Of course, we should, so that we can groom the child. But it is also important to not always look at the negative. You also should see what the child is really capable of and harness that potential to the maximum so that they get that confidence and they're able to work towards it. Because they are being what they are. It's us who have the mental blocks and the prejudice in our mind. That our child cannot do this. And I think we're all guilty to it. We learn as we progress further. And like earlier, if I had to attend a call and if my kid popped into the screen, I would really get agitated and angry. But I'm like, it's part of it now. If she's going to do this, it's okay. I mean, how long can I not have her? So as long as I can kind of move here and there to not have her on the screen. But if she wants to, there's not much I can do. So I've accepted it. So yeah, and because I've accepted it, it has automatically reduced.
Yes, I was just going to say that. Yes,
because now she's realized that I'm not getting that reaction that I used to.
True.
So it is worked. So I think that sometimes you have to change your strategy. So it really works well. That's all. I guess that's all from my side.
Great. So I will share these principles which we have learned today in form of a comment in the chat box on on the platform, so that all parents can remember this, note it down as well. So always remember that the only tip I want to leave with everyone is that remind yourself to follow the new parenting rules which we have created today. And if you forget, always go back to step one. Keep reminding yourself. Keep reminding yourself. Great. So if there are no questions, I'm going to discuss a very beautiful activity, and I would urge every parent to participate in it. So can we go ahead, Ekta?
Yes, please.
Yes.
So the next session, we are going to talk about how do we restart as a parent. And this is going to be the first step to restart, which I'm going to discuss right now. And if you do this step and come back in the next session, you will really enjoy the next session, which you're going to do. If you don't do this and come back, of course, there'll be a lot of learnings, but your perspective will change if you do this activity and come. When you do this activity, you will have tears in your eyes. So be ready for that as well. So this is an activity which I want every parent to do this. Request your child to write a letter to you. In a very as many words the child wants to write. If the child cannot write, ask them to draw something for you. Okay, give them little instructions. Tell them that please write a letter to me today, to mom and dad. They can write separately, they can write together, and tell them to express how they feel for you. Ask them to write what is that they like about you. Ask them to write what is that they don't like about you and they want you to improve as parents, as individuals, and what is that they expect from you. Explain to them these 4 pointers. If you want, write these 4 pointers on a piece of paper, give it to them, and let them write as much as they want. Okay, and once they have written, please sit back, take a coffee cup, or sit back somewhere alone and read this letter at least 3 times, if not once, or if not twice, if not more than that, minimum 3 times. Why I'm saying this is that the first time you read, you will read with generalizing, distorting, and deleting. The second time you read it, you will generalize, delete, distort to a little extent. And the third time when you read it, just remember my face so that you don't generalize, don't delete, don't distort, and you read the letter the way it is meant to be read. So I would urge all parents to please do this activity. I'm also going to do this along with all of you, though I have done this in the past, but trust me, every time I've done this and I've asked my daughter to write something to me, every time a new perspective has opened up for me as a parent. So I would request each parent to try this so that the next session, which you're going to talk about restarting your parenting, this is going to be the first step towards it. So
Wonderful, wonderful. This is a very powerful activity. I've done it not so much in detail, but very briefly. In fact, we did it last night only. And I remember the first time around, my mother asked my daughter that, what is it that you want to become when you grow up? And her answer was, I want to become mama. So obviously our next question, what do you mean by becoming a mama?
Yeah,
So, like, do you want to become a mother? Or she said, no, I want to become my mama. And then, of course, that changed for a few months. It was something else. And now it's back to being mama. So I guess, if you are good to them, they want to become you. If you're not good to them, they don't want to become you.
Yeah. So one word of caution, this letter may have a lot of feelings, inputs, which you may not like as a parent to read. But trust me, this is for your good. This is going to help you to introspect and make changes. And it's so important that you make these changes now so that you can be an effective parent and your child can grow, nurture along with you. So it's always good to restart anytime, right? There is no age. It said there is no age to restart anything or to do anything, right? So similarly, even for parenting, you can restart anytime. This is the time. Take the advantage of it. Go for it. Ask them to write. And if, again, repeating, children who cannot write, just give them four. Tell them that, what do you like about mama? Please draw. Let them draw. They will create something out of it. So for small children also, you can do this activity. So please do this. And some parents are going to cry when they read the letter. Some parents are going to feel very sad, very bad that, oh my God, what is this? Some parents are going to feel very happy about it because, there are some positive comments which are coming in there as parents. We feel very happy. So be ready for a little roller coaster ride, a little, a shuffle in the way you look at yourself as a parent. And we're going to meet in the next session.
Yeah, so one of the viewers, Prachi Gulati Magon, she says that this activity may even help in knowing the child's state of mind.
Absolutely. We are going to get there in the next session. Totally. It'll give you like a clear picture about what is it all about, what's going on in your child's mind. It's so important to know that before you actually restart your parenting journey or make some changes. Hum generally kya karte hain as parents, we assume that, okay, my child is stubborn because I'm being very strict with my child. You never know, that cannot be the reason. And we try and take measures and we try, changing things basis our assumption. But NLP teaches you that you should never assume, you should always think, feel, hear from their map of the world. So let's give it a shot to this letter and see what they feel, see what they see, feel what they feel, hear what they hear.
Rezana, here I want to ask you a question. What if a child does not communicate?
Mhm.
What if a child is not exhibiting the emotions,
Mhm.
or the love for the parent, or is indifferent with his or her emotion toward the parent?
Right.
So how does one, how does one get to do this activity with that child, or how should parents work on that, uh, where the child is completely indifferent? And I'm sure there would be a reason why the child would be like that, but how do parents break that ice with the child in that case?
Wonderful question, Ekta. If that is what the situation is, then I would urge the parent to write a letter to the child first and give that letter to the child. Let the child read the letter. Be as positive as you can, because your idea is to encourage the child to communicate. So don't be very negative in that letter. Hand over this letter, let the child read it. If the child is in the reading, if the child can read. If the child cannot read, you can simply draw something which resembles your good child and good habits and good behaviors, and give it to the child as a surprise, and then say now, and in that letter you can always say that now, even I would request you to write a short letter to me or a short drawing for me. Try this out. Most children respond to this, definitely respond to this. Yeah. And you can always say that you can seal it in the envelope and give it to me, so nobody can see it, something like that. And you can put in a secret message or something like that. So it works with most of the children. And if there are children who are not communicative, parents can try this spot and see if it works for them.
Yeah, letter from Santa or letter to Santa, or like, that also really
Yes.
has a very deep impact. They get excited that, oh, Santa is written back to them. And, and then as parents, I think you can communicate, the good and the scope of improvement. And, I think, since all of us are also professionals here, it takes me to the fact that, when organizations do 365-degree appraisals, and, typically what earlier appraisals used to be that you were only told, what you are bad at. You don't know this, you don't know this, you don't know this. But I think when the moment you change your approach from a point that you're very good at this, you're very good at this, you're okay in this, and this is where you really need to work upon. When you kind of boost the person's confidence and morale by appreciating the person of what they are capable of and highlighting that to them, and then tell them that, okay, you know what, you're excellent, good in this, but if you do this also, then that positive, and you will be a lot better, then that positive reinforcement really works. So maybe sometimes using our corporate strategies with these kids also helps. Obviously, fine tuning it and mellowing it down a little bit, and then communicating it to them that this is how it is, and I'm sure they do better. So this letter really works. I think I did try that. I did use Mr. Santa for the letter, and with communicating the positives that, okay, these are the excellent things that you've been doing, and this is where you really need to kind of work upon yourself. And maybe next year you can I will share with you how good you were in that entire 1 year period on these aspects. So yeah, this is interesting. I'm surely going to do this.
Wonderful. Great. So for parents' easiness, we can put these points in the comments so that if at all they need a format or questions, what they need to ask, we can take it. They can take it from there as well.
So probably Resina, it might be a great idea. Either you can share the slide with me and I can put it up on the page
WhatsApp
with
group.
Celia or me, or you can, create a kind of a JPG file and we can post it on the page or in the comment section.
We'll do that. Yes. We'll do that.
With those steps, the rule of new parenting also. So that probably would,
Yes.
people can, read through it and understand, because the third time when they will read it, they will not journalize, distort, and delete
Yes.
it.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Super.
Great.
Super.
So this is the thought which I'm going to leave everyone with, that the greatest work you and I will ever do will be within the walls of our home. So whether we are working in corporates, whether we are millionaires, whatever we are doing outside our homes, that's definitely great work, good work. But one of the greatest work which we will do is within the walls of our home, and that is obviously our children. So let's do our best and let's give our best to make sure we develop them, nurture them, and give them the best parenting what we can.
Super. Thank you, Resina, for this very, very interesting session. And we look forward to the third series, which will be at the end of this week. We had to shift the session from Saturday to Monday for some unavoidable reasons. So we will meet all of you on Saturday again with Resina, sharing her inputs about how do you restart parenting. That's right, Resina, that's
Yes.
what we're going to be talking
Yes.
about. And
Yes.
as a first step, we urge each one of you to, do take this activity very seriously, because it's going to give you a lot of insights, and it'll also be the basis on which you'll be able to restart the thought process of having a new style of parenting. So thank you so much, everyone, for being with us on Zoom call and on Facebook at MQ Kiddo Mentoring and Motherhood Club. Indeed, thank you for the overwhelming participation and that flow of communication to make this conversation even more impactful and interesting. And we should be back on Saturday. We will share the details of the time and the topic that we will be talking about a little more in detail. Till then, all of you stay safe. And Ela and I are very thankful
Thank
for
you so
having
much.
you here and for showering so much of love and affection on all of us. And thank you so much,
Gratitude
Razina.
to you who has joined, and thank you, Razina. Awesome session.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we
so
look
much.
forward to next
Yes,
session of
me
yours.
too. Me too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Take
Bye-bye.
care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, छोड़ दो.